Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining our August 23 store release, What's New for Workplace Service Delivery. We're so happy to have you here. And as we get started on our webinar today, I'd love to introduce our speakers. So first we have Allison. She's our Director of Outbound Product Management. Next, we have me, who's speaking. I'm Claire. I'm on our outbound product management team for workplace service delivery, and I take point on health and safety. Next, we have Medrick, and he's a director for outbound product management. And last but not least, we have Elizabeth, who's also on our outbound product management team for workplace service delivery. So all of us are going to be presenting our webinar today, and we're very happy to have you here. As we go into our webinar today, we are going to be covering our updates for the August 23 release, but we might cover some future-looking statements or roadmap statements as we're asking questions. So I do need to cover our safe harbor statement here today. So everything is within our current scope, but that may change in regards to our roadmap. And right now, we are having our webinar live on ServiceNow. And so if you do scan our QR code or the link in the chat, we have a wealth of other series that we welcome you to check out on our community. This is for other products as well, not just workplace service delivery, but this is to help deploy your products and achieve value faster. And some housekeeping rules. Please stay on mute throughout our entire presentation today. There will be a question and answer portion after we present, but please use that Q&A feature throughout the entire session. We'll make sure to answer any questions that you have. Feel free to introduce yourself when you ask a question. We'd love to know who you are. And this session will be recorded and shared on the ServiceNow community forum. So if you do need to drop off or you missed something, or you want to share it to your colleagues, you absolutely have the ability to do so. And then after the session, you'll be prompted to fill out a survey. We appreciate your feedback. So we host our sessions quarterly for workplace service delivery. So we'll have many more in the future and would love to know what's working and what we can change. So here's today's agenda and what we'll be presenting. So first, a summary of what's new in our August release. We'll then go deeper into the product. We'll walk through some slides that are going to cover those high-level value points, as well as go through and walk through a live demo instance, really to give the look and feel of what's changed and what's new. So first, we'll take a look at workplace connectors. We'll then go through the updates of Mapbased Administration. Next, we'll cover Move Scheduler in Workplace Central. I'll then cover our health and safety updates. We'll then have some updates with indoor mapping, as well as minor enhancements that might have changed. And then at the end, like I said, we'll have a question and answer portion. So what is new in our August release? First, within Workplace Connectors, we now have the ability to have open framework for integrating badge data, or occupancy reporting for occupancy reporting. And we do have a technical guide on that badge system configuration. So right now it's agnostic. So you have the ability to integrate in your own badge providers. Next, we have updates in Map-based administration. And with this, the ability to select multiple places from the map view and edit their properties. Next, we have Move Schedulers. So in Workplace Central, we now have the ability to create move projects by grouping move cases, organize move cases with a calendar view, and then track those move cases and associated tasks. Within health and safety, we have updated the look and feel of it. So we now have the playbook experience, part of platform functionality. We also have an incident summary page now to get a high-level insight of the incident. And last, we have introduced new role-specific landing pages. For indoor mapping, we now have the ability to filter map content at the user level and select which content is or is not displayed, improve navigation in the campus list, as well as new CAD file import options to manage content, title names, or computation of services. And last, in terms of minor enhancements, These are across workplace service delivery. The first one being to display descriptions for additional services for reservations. Next, to synchronize reservations with Exchange Server on-premise, and we have some notes there to help you with that. And last, the renaming of the Workplace Safety Management application. So no changes there, just a name change, but we'll go through those specifics. So I'd now love to introduce Allison, and she will cover Workplace Connectors.
Great. Thank you, Claire. I'm excited to talk more about Workplace Connectors. And just at a high level, Workplace Connectors is a brand new top-level application within our Workplace Service Delivery suite. And the entire purpose of this new top-level application is to allow our customers to more easily integrate with their badging providers. And what we're unveiling there and unlocking is really making it easier for you to better understand your occupancy and your attendance in the office. We know that this is a big need and a big trend within the market. You're trying to better understand work patterns and how your employees are actually using your spaces. And obviously, badging is one of those very valuable data points. And with Workplace Connectors, what we've specifically delivered is an agnostic framework. And the reason we've designed it in this way is we know that all of our customers have various badging providers, and some of you may even have multiple badging providers across your portfolio of locations. And so there's actually no limit to the amount of badging systems that you can add. And again, it's agnostic to make this as easy as possible, depending on what your badging provider specifically is at your organization. And so in addition to kind of providing that framework and making it easier to pull in your badge information, we've also delivered a brand new occupancy dashboard, which is what we actually see here in the visual. This is displaying within our Workplace Central dashboard, and it's really helping you better understand, again, trends in your headcount. And in a moment, I'll actually pull this up in a live instance and talk a little bit more in detail about what you're seeing here. But again, that's what's in the visual. And the other thing that I want to point out that's very nice about this new occupancy dashboard is the fact that we have various filtering capabilities. So again, this is something that I'll demo in a moment, but obviously we know that there is value in understanding your occupancy, from a bird's eye perspective across all of your locations, but there are definitely circumstances where you need to drill down and do some filtering. So we've delivered capabilities to allow you to do that. So now what I'll do, I'm going to take over screen share and I'm going to just pull up the dashboard live and we'll be able to walk through a little bit more of what is in the dashboard. Okay, so now we're seeing my live instance. Again, this is what was in the screenshot. And as a reminder, like I said before, this is Workplace Central, which many of you are maybe already familiar with. And we're specifically looking at this net new occupancy dashboard tab. And so across the top, we see some of those nice filters that I was just mentioning. So you can, of course, filter by a date range. But one thing I want to show you is first we see region here. Let's say that we click in and we want to select our Americas region and apply. Obviously, we see the data reload. And we also see the ability to add other filters here, like specific sites. So we've filtered to the Americas. Let's say we really only want to see our New York site. We could go ahead and apply that filter as well. And obviously, you can see there are a lot of other filtering capabilities around things like the specific campus, the cost center, the department. I won't demo all of those, but just wanted to show kind of how that cascades and the flexibility that you have to visualize the right data. The other thing that you'll notice across the top, we have some key things that are displaying in terms of your headcount. So you can see your total headcount, the highest headcount that you've had in a day, and then what your average is looking like. Then as we continue to scroll in the dashboard, you can also see how this is trending over time. So you can see here, we can look back to different months of the year and see how the total headcount versus on-site headcount has changed and what that gap is. Another nice thing that we've delivered is the ability for you to understand your average on-site headcount. And so what we've noticed is that anecdotally from looking around like locations, you might be able to infer that maybe middle of the week is seeing more traffic and headcount in locations rather than ends of the week or beginnings of the week. This is actually helping you visualize and put data behind that to verify. And then as we scroll, one other thing here that you see in the new dashboard is this ability to look at this across different geographies as well as different departments. So here we, again, see the fact that we have this isolated by customer support, finance, legal, And again, you're seeing the total headcount of those departments as well as who's actually on site. So allowing you to just see how this is trending from different areas of the business. So that's the dashboard itself. The other thing that I want to point all of you to is on community, and we can put the link in the chat in a moment. In addition to our regular docs, we actually have a technical documentation blog that's posted. And this is walking you through step by step some of the things to think about and exactly how you would configure and create the integration to your badging provider at your organization. So I won't read through all of the details here, but we will put this in the chat so you can reference it later. So that is it for workplace connectors. Next, I'm going to pass it to Mederic to talk about our next topic. So Mederic, over to you.
Thank you, Alison. I will share my screen. So the next feature is map-based administration. This feature is also located in Workplace Central. And the purpose of this feature is to give you more options when it comes to edit the data in your workspaces. So you probably have very large offices with large floors with tens or hundreds of desks and meeting rooms. And it's sometimes complicated and boring to have to edit manually every data or property on those spaces. So the purpose of this feature is to give you another way to do the addition of the properties of your spaces. So one way is the ability to edit, to enter in edition mode from the map. So you don't have to select the space from a list in a table. You are now able, if you have a map, of course, to select a resource and to change attributes on this resource. For instance, could be you want to move a room from the marketing department to the product management department. That can be done very easily right from the map. That's the first new feature we added. And we know you sometimes have to do batch. You have to make several or tens of modifications at the same time. So we also added the possibility to do multiple selections on the map and then apply the changes to more than one space at the same time. So it's a way to raise the productivity. It's especially useful when you have tens or hundreds of spaces to modify. I think the best way to show that is to show you my screen and to enter the Workplace Central feature to show you how it works. Do you see it? I think it's should be. Yep. Okay. I don't. That's the reason why I ask. So we are back to Workplace Central, and here we will work on the scenario. So I have a scenario here. So let's enter the scenario, my scenario, and I guess you are used to see the stack view of the building. And we added the possibility to enter the map from the scenario. So here you have a map view of the building. So you can choose a floor, for instance, floor number 2. And it's possible to do some modifications right from the map. So here we have the possibility to select, let's say, the department. So that's a way to visualize the departments on that floor, and we can start editing that floor. So I can select a resource. So let's select this one, for instance, and I can change the value of the neighborhood or the department. So let's change the value to product management. And we can apply, so you can see the color changed. That's a new way to edit a resource, a space from the map. But as I told you, that's not the only new feature. There is also the possibility to select multiple resources. So I can select this resource and this. So I just have to push the Shift button and select more resources on the map. And then I can change the values here. So to product management and apply. We also added the possibility to do that in a mass way. So in that case, we have the possibility to select, to draw an area on the map and then select the resources. So I can select that area and those. And I can also add those two resources. So we can see we have a lot of spaces selected here. And then we can change to, let's say, finance. So this way we have a way to change a lot of properties on a lot of spaces very, very quickly, instead of doing that manually, space by space, or a group of spaces by space. And you can do that right from the map. That's okay for my presentation of the map-based space administration. And the next presentation. Sorry, I have a problem with my. Yeah, Elizabeth, you can you?
Thanks, Medwick. I'll go. Yeah. Yeah. Can you see my deck?
Yeah.
I assume that's a yes. So I'm going to be now showing you Move Scheduler. So part of a new feature that we added, so we extended on the move management. So an application that was already existing, move management, where previous to this release, an employee could request to have their desk moved. So let's say they were assigned to a specific location, an employee could submit a request to have their assigned location changed from one space to another. We then went ahead and, as Medwick was just showing, we have new ways of creating scenarios, making changes. And by doing these changes, we're creating bulk moves. So we're creating multiple cases of move that need to be scheduled to make sure that a project is fully validated. So what is a project? A project is multiple cases that are grouped together, and to make this project successful, need to all be completed. And so with that in mind, we came out with this new feature of giving the move manager actually the option to have a dashboard to view all the work that they're doing. So everything that's currently in progress from a dashboard perspective, but also then drilling down into a project and having a clear calendar view of this needs to happen at this time, this needs approval. I can have a clear view of what needs to happen by when to make sure this is successful. So we've released two ways of actually viewing these. So just to go into more detail, I'll go into an instance to show you how this actually works. So now just hopping into my instance. So as Alison and, I'll just go ahead. I'm not sharing the right screen. Sorry about that. As Alison and Medwick were just showing, I'm also in Workplace Central. So here, the main location for all facility managers to have all the information on their location. Where I'm going to go is here, a new tab, which is the Move Scheduler. And this is the dashboard that was shown in the slide of, this is everything I need to know of all the moves that are happening within my organization. I can see the amount of projects that are currently open, the total amount of move requests, but also the total amount of tasks. And if I scroll down slightly on this dashboard, I get a more precise view of the status of all of these. So how many of my requests are actually planned versus the ones that are unplanned. So the ones that are unplanned, I'm going to have to drill down and make sure I figure out timing, dates, when can this be put into an actual project to make sure that it does go through and that we don't forget any requests that have been put through. I can also see the status of all my projects. So is a project near completion? You can see here that all my projects have mainly just started. So there's quite a few different states, but I can actually, just by looking at this, have an idea, a general idea of, are most of the requests complete, or am I halfway through the project, or am I going to have to need more time? So from there, I can also scroll down. I can see the projects. So as I have here 4 active projects, I can see my 4 projects here, which I can then click into and get that calendar view I was just showing you. But I can also scroll down and view every single request. So these are single cases, and all of these cases, to make sure that they get completed, as I was saying, they need to be attached to a project. So either I can attach them to an existing project, or I can just go ahead and create a new project and select different items, different conditions to group together the different cases. So to create the project, I can either select conditions saying that all the cases that have been open in one specific location, a specific floor, a specific building, or by a specific persona, I want to group all those together into one project, or I'll show you later on, this can also be done via scenario planning. So let's just go into one of these move projects to see what a move manager can actually visualize. They'll be able to see this calendar view. So it's a calendar view with here on the left side, every single move case, which is assigned to this project. I can see it in the calendar view. So right now I can see the current week that we are in. I can scroll along to see the actual dates, see the different colors of the status of each of these cases, but I can also decide that I would like to see a list view to have more details as to what each case is actually, so view more dates and more items around these, but I can also click into them and make edits to them. So I can change the date, I can change the time, I can change the state of them, I can see what tasks are also assigned, I can have knowledge articles assigned, I can add comments, work notes, all of that can be added in this part. But if I go back to my calendar view, I also have here the possibility of, if I scroll down, I can see all my cases. But let's say today, I see that there's quite a lot of work and it's a bit too much. Maybe I need to postpone some things, maybe I need to make some changes, and I need to make it as easy as possible. So what we've enabled is for the move manager to actually drag and drop. So let's say today this one needs approval. I know I'm not going to get the approval by today, so let's move it out to Friday. So that's automatically going to update and then switch it to another day. I can also say here, I can see it as a week. If I want more visibility, and if I want to see the project in general, I can move to a month's view so that I see over the period of a month these different move cases. So the date's not changing, it's just a different view of where these cases actually need to be completed. So we can see here, it's mainly this week, so last week and this week that the project is taking place, so that I can make sure that by the time the last case is completed, I know that my full project has been validated and everything has been set to approved and has been completed. So all the moves are completed. I haven't left anything behind. I've had a clear view. I'm able to say the project was successful. So that's one way of looking at projects. I can also, let's say I forgot 1 or 2 colleagues or a couple of people that also need to be changed, need to be included in this project. I can just go ahead and add some new requests. So look in the list of actual cases that have been open and also add to this project. So the other way of creating a project is from scenario planning. So scenario planning, as Mederick just went by, it's actually creating a what-if scenario. So this is the snapshot of what my facility looks like today. I want to make some adjustments. That would mean reallocation. So I'm going to need the employees that are assigned on floor 2 to be assigned to floor 5. Maybe some departments will change, and that is going to create allocation changes. So if I just go into one of these scenarios, just to show you, so I've made some changes on this. We're going to see the stat plan, as we just saw, the floor plan, I've made changes. So I've created an execution plan. This execution plan is in detail. It's a lot of move cases, a lot of cases. So some employees are going to have to be reallocated. Some employees didn't have a desk, but have now got a desk. Some employees have now gone remote. So I've made different changes. And what I want to happen is I want to make sure that my move manager takes this project and make sure that every single one of these cases gets completed to say that the project has been completed. So what I'm going to do is here, I've created my plan. I'm just going to publish it to make sure all my colleagues can see it. I'm just going to update my page because this plan was going to need an approval. Why is it not going for an approval? So this plan, basically, I'm then going to send it for approval. And once it's been approved by the people that are on the approval plan, I can then deploy it. And by deploying it, it's going to create a scenario. It's going to create a move project with the name of my actual scenario. So this scenario is going to become a move project. So changing from the space planner, the facility manager, to the actual move planner in my organization. So from that, I'm going to now pass it over to Claire for the health and safety updates.
Thank you, Elizabeth. And let me get my screen shared. Okay, so with our health and safety update for our August release, we had a couple of updates, and I'll walk through some slides now, and then we'll get into our demo instance. So our first update is the health and safety incident playbook. And so if you're familiar with health and safety and the look and feel in version 3, in this update, we have updated it to have the playbook experience. So again, if you're familiar with it across other products within the ServiceNow ecosystem, it's the same playbook because it's a platform capability, but we've now added it here to guide users through incident investigation steps. So using this platform playbook feature, our users are able to have that consistent and guided and easy to use investigation process. We really wanted to reduce the amount of tabs and clicks that your health and safety teams were having to navigate through. Just a note here, this does require process automation designer app engine to modify and configure if you really want to change all of those different playbook steps. So please reach out to your account team with specific questions there. Our next update, moving along through our updates, is the health and safety incident overview. And so now in one summary on a landing page, we have all of the health and safety details of the incident and the investigation. So we can see here our attachments, our sequence of events, and even the people involved. And this is going to quickly inform health and safety teams of the investigation status without having to navigate through tabs, without having to find or search and take a lot of time to do so. Everything is going to be in one area. Our last update, before we get into our demo, where I'll walk through all of this in more specifics and you'll be able to see it, is our health and safety role-specific landing pages. So we now have 2 new roles, and with those roles within their workspace, their landing page is going to be tailored to that specific role. So our first one is our health and safety operations user, and that's going to be more of a line manager or a supervisor. They're going to be able to see metrics that are going to be relevant to overseeing a team. And within their role, they're actually able to create incidents and observations if they need to. If it's reported to them, they have that ability to do so. Our next role is a health and safety executive. So if you wanted to give this role to a CEO, a CHRO, they're not doing investigations or incidents and observations. They're really just seeing the metrics. And so this role has different metrics and visibility into the health and safety of their organization. So I'll now get into our first persona. And who we're looking at is Mike Scott. And you might be familiar with Mike. Mike's a health and safety agent, but he's just did the update and has a few things that he wants to call out here. So within our health and safety workspace here, we can have the ability to create incidents and observations. He has some safety metrics. You can see all the incidents by location, as well as his work and his teamwork. but he wants to begin creating this investigation today. So with this update, we did change the data model. So in the past, our incident, we've simplified the incident, and with that, we merged the incident and investigation record. So now it is a one-to-one relationship. And so every incident will have one investigation to that. So we did that based on customer feedback and research that typically we weren't having multiple incidents per investigations or vice versa. So everything is now in a one-to-one ratio. As you can see here, and I have one that's populated just so we can see some of the information in the fields being filled out. We have our incident summary here indicating it as sensitive or not, the assignment group, and even the short description. So all of this has been populated by that employee that is filled, or manager who's filled out the incident form, or our health and safety agent who's actually created this ad hoc. We can add our incident and event details, the people involved, and we can add employees, public, or even visitors. If you remember in our last update, we had the ability to add visitors. You'd be able to choose the person type here, and as well as the association to the incident. Next, we'll get into describing our event. And as the user is guided through this process, they can save this and come back. As you can see, I'm clicking around, I'm navigating through the flow of this incident, but realistically, the user would go through in each of these steps and complete each of these fields before moving on. We can see the description of the injury and illness. We still have the ability to select the injured body parts. And then we can also add hospital information and assets if involved. Last, we have the ability to perform a root cause analysis. And with that, we have the 5 whys. And if we had multiple root cause analysis, they would appear at the top here. As our health and safety agent is navigating through this incident, we have the ability to see attachments. And so if we go to our different fields here, those attachments are going to stay here to the right. And so regardless of any step in the process, they're going to be able to see those attachments, basically giving them ease of use into the incident. They're not going to have to dig through email or even various fields or attachments that will be right here. So they also are able to see any activity that has been created as well. And again, that's going to stay regardless if they're in report an incident, incident overview, or health and safety actions. So this just has a overview of what has occurred. If they wanted to start working on that sequence of events, add any assets, we have the ability to do so from this view. And last, we can add any health and safety action. This has been around since we released our product, but just as a refresh, we can go in, add off those health and safety actions and have that be corrective or preventative. So that's everything I have to show in terms of both the playbook and the incident summary, but I'll quickly cover our two new roles. So first we have Henry here, and he's that operations manager. And with this, like I mentioned, he has the ability to create incidents and observations if someone were to email him or come to his office and let him know of an injury or a observation. He has the ability to do so. He has different reporting and metrics than Mike had. He's able to see more specific into that. And then he also can have safety tasks assigned to him. But this is giving him a snapshot into the health and safety of his organization for his role as a safety operations manager. And last, might look a little similar, but it is different. We're looking at Michael, our executive. And so you notice at the top here, Michael is not able to create incidents or observations because he is an executive. He's not going to be performing that role, but what he does want to see is what's happening across his organization. So we can see some of the metrics up here that are consistent with our other two users, but we're also able to see number of preventative actions, number of corrective actions, what injuries are by location, and as well as specifics into these injury metrics. We have this role being assigned to an executive, but you would be able to determine who in your organization and which level you would like to have this role assigned to. So again, giving him more of a very high level insight into each of these numbers of incidents. He does not have the ability to drill into these incidents like the other users had because he is an executive. He just needs to know the numbers, not the specifics of those incidents. So if he did want this to be more of a drillable and actually see all of the incident information, he would need to have either that manager or that agent role. So that is everything I have prepared to show for our health and safety update. And I will now switch it over to Metric for indoor mapping.
Thank you. I'm going to introduce you to 3 new features available in indoor mapping. The first one is a feature for end users. That's the ability to decide whether or not you want to display all the information on the map, or if you want to filter those informations. So basically, it's very simple to use. As a user, let's say in the location directory, you have now a new icon here. It's an eye. And as a user, you are able to click on it, and you can select the kind of resources you want to display or not to display. That feature is especially interesting if you have very complex maps with a lot of data. And let's say, for instance, you are interested in seeing desks and meeting rooms, but you are not interested to see fire extinguishers and printers, for instance. So you just have to uncheck printers and fire extinguishers in the list. Please note that feature is not self-activated, so it's up to your WSD admin to decide whether or not your users are entitled to use it, and to decide which fields can be, which properties can be filtered or not. So there is there are dedicated tables to activate those options. So that was the first feature. The second new feature is related to the studio. So it works only in the studio. So basically, when we have customers who have many campuses, and every time you want to enter a campus in the studio to edit some data, you have to select the campus on a list. And if you have many campuses, it takes time. So we added a search feature here, and that feature allows you to filter in the list of campuses. And if you still have a lot of campuses, we also added a pagination system, so it's easier to access campuses. That feature is self-activated, so you don't have to change or to activate a switch somewhere because it's self-activated. So if you have many campuses, now you are entitled to access those campuses very quickly. The last improvement we made to indoor mapping is a very technical one. It's the ability when you import CAD files. You know, CAD files are the kind of files used by real estate professionals, and you have CAD files. Then you import them into the studio, and when you do the import of CAD files, it's now possible to extract values from the CAD files, attributes from CAD files elements, to extract those values and to enter them as properties and to bind them with properties of your spaces. So there are different ways to do that, but note that's interesting. If you have such attributes in your CAD files, now it's possible to extract them and then to populate fields from your spaces directly from data that come from the CAD files. It might seem abstract. It is a little bit, but an example is the possibility to extract, to have different title and names for a resource. And that's a kind of usage. And it's also possible to extract and to compute the surface. If you want to do that, you have a room, let's say you have a meeting room, and you want to automatically extract or compute the surface of the room. It's possible to do that at the moment when you do the import of the CAD file. So you don't have to do it after the import. That was the last new feature in the map field, and I'm going to go to Elizabeth for the
Thanks,
next
Medovic.
And the last part.
Yeah, I'll go ahead and now present to you the 3 minor enhancements. So starting off with the renaming of our main application, Workplace Safety Management, which has been renamed to Workplace Core. So the reason behind this is because we want to make people understand that Workplace Core is the foundation of WSD. So you have to start by Workplace Core. So this is the application which contains your location hierarchy. So the region, site, campus, and all the spaces need to be filled in here before continuing to use other applications within WSD. So we found it useful to actually rename this to Workplace Core. No functionality has changed, it's just a renaming. Moving on, we've added the possibility to add descriptions to additional services. So previous to this release, when an employee was requesting a service, let's say adding on a service to their reservation, they'd be able to book basic breakfast. However, there was no way of actually understanding or knowing what was in that basic breakfast, as the title had to be short and you could not write the full description of what was going to be in that breakfast. So now we've added the capability of adding more detail so that when an employee does book an item such as the basic breakfast, they actually know what is being delivered. So if there's any specific requirements for food, they can actually read that and have the full detail before making a reservation and adding that service. So this description is actually visible not only on the portal when making a reservation, but also in the Outlook adding. You also have the possibility of viewing that description, and that description is not only on the actual item, it's also on the catalog itself. So 2 descriptions can be added to the service. Moving on to our last enhancement, we've now added the possibility for organizations that use Outlook on-premise that can now use WSD and the on-premise version of Outlook to be able to sync reservations. This does not mean that we support the hybrid mode, as we support the Exchange Online and now on-premise. We support those 2 separately, and for the minute we cannot have the hybrid version, meaning half on the online and half on-premise. So that is the high level, and we can share a lot more information. If any of you today are interested on the on-premise, there are a few specifics. So the configuration is mainly the same. However, there are a few specifics that we can then go ahead and share with you if needed. So just wrapping up this webinar, I just want to tell you all that there is a blog post on community that you can go and read through, which is also going to give you screenshots and details of what the outbound team went through today, so giving you that extra information if needed, if you want to go through that. And of course, the recording of the session will also be made available on the community. I do want to point out that we have a webinar coming up next week. So next week we'll be hosting a webinar which will be specific to the workplace calendar synchronization. So we'll have some of our experts on that session to guide you through an implementation and help answer some questions you might have if you're currently going through an implementation. If you're planning on implementing the calendar synchronization, we definitely recommend you join that session.
Thank you all.
Thank you all.
Thanks, everyone.